Do you guys remember the Volkswagen Golf? Yeah, I kind of forgot about it, and so did the rest of the car buying public, but I'm sitting in one. It's a 2019 Volkswagen Golf SE. Shall we take a drive? Let's go this way. Opportunity is shining upon me. Let's floor it on this empty road. Pause. Power! That's the first thing I noticed when I was driving the Volkswagen Golf SE home last night, was that as I got on it from a stop, there's this lull, and then right about 3,000 RPM, the power comes to life. It's because there's a 1.4 liter turbocharged engine under the hood now of all Golfs. I mean, obviously not the GTI or the R or anything like that, but just for your run-of-the-mill Golf, it's that 1.4 liter, which replaced the previous 1.8 liter. This is the same engine that's in the Volkswagen Jetta, and it makes plenty of power on paper if you're looking at the torque number. Horsepower is a little, honking, angry driving, must be a morning commute. Ooh, coming to a stop. This is an opportunity. Let's see how the engine start-stop system works. Well, that was really weird. It shut off and then immediately started back up again. What that proves is that the restarts are quick, but that's a little weird. I wonder why it did that. I don't know why it doesn't want to be off. As we get rolling here, this is another behavior I've noticed. The 8-speed automatic transmission really wants to be in the highest gear possible. As you leave from a stop with the accelerator at a particular setting, it keeps upshifting and it kind of loses thrust. So you feel this tendency to want to keep adding more accelerator pedal as you get going. So it has this sort of heavy feel that you feel like you have to compensate for. Oh, the AC is off. Let me turn that back on. I do like a consistent breeze. Oh, good, another red light. I think this might be an opportunity to try that auto engine start-stop system again. All right, just to make sure it activates, AC is off. I'm going to say, too, while I'm doing this, the brakes feel pretty good. Not too touchy. Engine is off. Let's try the restart. Not bad. I would probably just let that one do its thing and not worry about the off button, which is right down here to the left of the gear shift if you need it. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, see, there's that thing again where it really wants to be in the highest gear possible. So it's like, let's get this thing under 2,000 RPM, which is interesting because that feels like a fuel savings strategy, but fuel economy with the automatic is exactly the same as it is with the manual transmission. At an EPA-approved pace on this freeway, I could get 37 miles per gallon, which it's okay. It's not stellar. In fact, with a displacement of 1.4 liters, you might expect slightly better fuel economy, but hey, I don't know how the economy works. This might be the German-ness of the Golf coming through, but at freeway speeds here, it feels very stable. Some other compact cars I've driven recently, like the Corolla, they have this tendency to want to wander back and forth, but I feel like I have to make very few corrections to maintain a steady straight-ahead course while driving the Golf. You know, because when you're making a video on your morning commute, the last thing you want to have to do is steer. Ride quality is pretty good too. The base model comes with 15-inch alloy wheels, and then if you upgrade to the SE trim, which I'm driving here, then you get 16s. Yeah, there's two trims. There's the S and the SE. It's funny, when I walked out to get in the Golf yesterday, I saw SE and I was like, oh, this is a rare occurrence. We're gonna get like a low trim. We usually get the fancy stuff over at the Kelley Blue Book offices where I work, and this was like just an SE. Evidently, there are only two trims and SE is the highest. But yeah, riding on the 16-inch wheels, ride quality is good. And it's not too loud in here either. There's a level of over-the-road refinement that would make this a fine daily commuter or even a long hauler. I mentioned the trims. One thing I really like is that you can get a 6-speed manual or an 8-speed automatic in both trims. So if you want the fancier SE trim like I'm driving here, you can still get the manual transmission if you're so inclined. You know, I'm making my way around this on-ramp here, and the steering feels great. It's super stable on center, but as you start to add a little bit of steering input, there's a great alignment between the resistance I feel through the wheel and the rate of turn by the vehicle. You guys ever hear of Fahrvergnügen? You're probably too young for Fahrvergnügen. It's this goofball campaign that Volkswagen ran like in the 80s, basically talking about this German concept of driving fun. I'm experiencing a little Fahrvergnügen. It's not as pervy as it sounds. I mean, I guess it depends on how you're doing it. Time for my mid-drive peek to make sure my camera's still there. Wait right there. Yeah, she's still there. This is why we use double suction cups. Emotion factor. I mean, to be honest, so far in this drive, I haven't done anything too zany. I will have my long sweeping right-hand corner at the end of my commute, which will be great. But so far, I'm going to say that there is a strong emotion factor despite the kind of low-cost, practical nature of the Golf. And I think a lot of that has to do with steering. The steering just feels connected. Even if ultimate road holding with the Hankook tires out there isn't insanely grippy, it kind of doesn't matter. The fact that when you move the steering wheel, the car turns in a very satisfying, predictable way, for me, it fills me with positive emotion. It's the inside that counts. Let's talk about it. In many ways, the interior of the Volkswagen Golf is defined by the exterior, which is to say a boxy hatchback shape, which means the interior is capacious. Ooh, there's a good word for roomy. Ultimate cargo space is a really good place to start. In the back, there's 22.3 cubic feet if you take the cargo cover out and you fill it up all the way to the roof. That is a ton of space. For size perspective, here's my pile of used GoPros that powers the excellent visual qualities you come to expect from Micah drives, and also my Blistex lip balm. It's the mint kind, highly recommend it. As a father, I can imagine using that space to carry like a stroller when my daughter was younger. We haven't used a stroller in like a year, and you can fold the seats for larger items. I think for a family hatchback, this would work really, really well. On that note, in the back seat, one of the things I really like is that the latch points are easy to access. There's this little cover, and you just pop them off, and then you can, hook up your child seat. But what's cool is that in the middle position, there's an upper tether, meaning you can put your child in the middle position, which is the absolute safest spot for a child in a car. I'll also point out that the rear doors open fairly wide, so for installing a car seat, that's pretty helpful. I don't know if there's enough legroom back there to conveniently put a rear-facing car seat without having whoever's sitting up front move up front, but for a front facer, it's plenty of space. And for a Micah-sized human being, it's also plenty of space. I've got ample knee clearance, great headroom, even in the middle position. I've said elsewhere before, I love a small car that's smartly packaged, and this is absolutely one of those cars. So much so that I had a brief moment where I was thinking, like, should we buy a Volkswagen Golf even though the rest of America has not? It's funny, if you look at the sales numbers, in 2018, I think they sold like 6,600 Golfs, which for perspective, that's almost no cars. That's very few cars. If the exterior moved me emotionally, and if a brand new Volkswagen Golf wasn't just around the corner, I might almost consider buying one. But we'll get to that in the synopsis. For keeping me, the perpetually annoyed driver, complaint-free, there are a couple things working in my favor. One is this armrest. This is classic Volkswagen. It extends forward and back, and then it does the sort of incremental height increase thing, and yeah, that's a pretty comfortable driving position. It's almost perfect for an 8 and 4. 9 and 3, that's pretty good. There's a little bit of stitching on the inside of the steering wheel here, but it's not too abrasive on my delicate automotive journalist typing fingers. Adding some class to the steering wheel, though, is some piano black plastic, which you'll find over here on the emergency brake as well. I know some people don't like the piano black. I think in this context, it's just subtle enough that I don't hate it. The other item keeping me from complaining is the standard lumbar support. So it's manual, and there's a lever over here on the side of the seat, but cranked to full lumbarness, it's good. Gives me the support I desperately need. This is a weird one, though. The front seats are half powered. I've seen this in a couple of Ford products too, like Mustangs will sometimes do this, where the seat back angle is power, but then the slide forward and back is manual. Why do car makers do that? It's so weird. I imagine it's one of those, if we get rid of the motors for sliding fore and aft, we can save $3.23 per car. And if we sell 6,000 of those in America over the year, then that's like a pretty good pizza party for the people in Volkswagen. The thing is, if you buy a Volkswagen Golf, you'll probably just set it to the seat position that you like, and you'll be fine. But I don't know, it just seems a little cheap. I already talked about the whole driving experience thing, but as long as I'm cruising along on the freeway, let's see what happens when I want to overtake a slower Lexus. Assertive little downshift, nice increase in thrust. Good. When you're moving, the Golf pulls well. It's just that leaving from a stop where it's desperately trying to get to the highest gear possible, where it feels a little lethargic. One thing I forgot to mention about the rear seats, they've got headrests that, depending on who's sitting up front, you might actually have to remove, and you can't remove them simply by pushing one button. You have to push the other button on the other side, and it's kind of a pain, so it's probably easier just to move the front seat forward to flip them down, but I kind of like a simpler headrest solution. I'd prefer not to linger in the IKEA parking lot any longer than is necessary. Style! Can we talk about the exterior? The Volkswagen Golf looks like a Volkswagen Golf. There's not that much to discuss, though I will point out that if you go to the rear, the things that look like there should be exhaust outlets there are not exhaust outlets. They are plastic cladded lies, and the real exhaust outlet is sort of hidden underneath. There's something to me about making a vehicle that is authentic, and when you are presenting something functional, actually following through with that function. It only makes sense that we expect certain visual cues when we look at cars, and manufacturers sometimes need to give us those while following their own agendas. Although I'm not quite sure why you wouldn't want to show the exhaust outlet unless it just costs too much to make it look cool. And it's just cheaper to put a little bit of plastic and chrome back there. Whatever. All I know is that I like the look of the Golf in theory. To me, it's getting old, and on that note, it is getting old. A brand new Golf is supposed to arrive in 2020, so this is the last hurrah for the 7th generation Golf. And I've heard rumors too that the next generation Golf is not going to make it to America, that they're just going to bring the GTI and the Golf R. That'd make me kind of sad, but looking at the sales numbers, it's like, yeah, I can see why you do that. Does that mean this might be our only opportunity to drive around on a Volkswagen Golf? Cherish the moments, people. People on a Tesla are staring at me right now. Huh, I don't know why. Remarks! Oh, you know, I've been yelling the titles enough. I think that might be the thing. I mean, I guess the only other option would be to say them casually or to sing them. I'll leave that up to you. Should I sing the titles? Should I scream the titles? Or should I just not be a spaz and say them like a normal human being? I leave it to you, comment section. For 2019, Volkswagen made rear cross traffic alert, forward collision warning with automatic emergency braking, and blind spot warning standard across the Golf lineup. That last one is interesting. So somebody in my Toyota Corolla video made a comment that I was kind of out of line for saying that the Corolla had all the safety equipment you would need because blind spot warning was not standard and it wasn't even offered on the hybrid. To me, blind spot warning is really situationally dependent. If you're driving your car with massive blind spot warning is a nice thing to have. But across the industry, it's not really a standard item so far. At some point it will be, and in the Golf it is. So to you, I would say if blind spot warning is really important, buy a Volkswagen Golf, because even the cheapest version that costs $22-something thousand, like $22,500, that's going to have blind spot warning, if that's important to you. The blind spots aren't that bad, it's not that important to me. Ooh, it's that exciting moment where I get to start sneaking over and get ready for my long sweeping off-ramp, the most exciting part of my day. I mean, not every day, just the boring days where I'm stuck in an office. As I approach my right-hand sweeper, I'll mention that there is a driver assistance package for $1,300 that adds lane keeping assist and dynamic cruise control. And for some reason, when you get that, you also get 17-inch wheels. I have no idea why they packaged it that way, but if you want 17-inch wheels, you're also going to have to drive a slightly safer car. I'm sorry. All right, I'm going to hang back just a little bit. Let's put this into manual mode. Oh, God. My sweeper's being ruined by a Volkswagen Tiguan going super slow. For perspective, I'm going so slow that the Prius behind me is right on my ass. and gun it. Takes a little moment for the power to come on. Once it does, it's okay. That was quite possibly the least thrilling time I've gone through that corner all week. You're here to witness my disappointment. All right, here's a corner. Yeah. If you were to drive this thing around a skid pad, I'm sure the numbers would not be impressive, but how much time do you spend at the absolute limit of adhesion when you drive your car? Oh, all the time? There's YouTube's law, which is if it can't exist, it does exist. Naturally, there's somebody out there that always drives at the absolute limit of adhesion, but for most people, that's not really the case. So if you're not driving at 100% handling limit, what really matters is feel, and the Golf has a really nice feel around corners. One more oddity, the only air conditioning you can get is manual, and this is a sign of privilege. I don't know the last time I drove a car that had manual air conditioning, so it's not laborious. It's just kind of, these are knobs, and you can turn them. This one makes it a little bit colder, and it gets hotter if you turn it the other way. That's kind of fun. Oh, and these numbers mean how fast the fan blows. That's maximum blow. Feeling strong. I said earlier that the base Golf starts around $22,500. It's $22,000. This one, as equipped with the 8-speed automatic transmission, is about $25,200. That's not including destination charges. If I were buying a Volkswagen Golf, and again, I'm not sure I'd do that in the absolute last model year, then again, they've probably worked out a lot of the kinks, but if it were me, I would step up from the S to the SE. It's $2,300, but you get leatherette, you get an 8-inch screen, and instead of the 6.5-inch unit, you get this sunroof, which they describe as a panoramic sunroof, but really it's just kind of a slightly larger sunroof. And you also get Smart Key, which means you don't have to reach into your pocket and push a button to unlock the door, and you get this little engine start button too. As you've rightly intuited, I am a lazy, lazy man, and I'll be damned if I'm going to have to physically touch my key to start my car and get into it. Flip that order. Okay, turning. Yeah, so you reach the limit pretty quickly, but the steering is just quick enough, and it just feels nice. This is a fun driving car. Farfignugan. Again, you got to look that up. Farfignugan. I mentioned the 8-inch screen in the SE trim. It's a capacitive unit, which means you can do like swipe and zoom and pinch and that kind of stuff. All those fun gestures that you know from your smartphone. Across the board though, regardless of which unit you get, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto comes standard. I was just driving a BMW X5 and they charge $80 per year for the privilege of using CarPlay after the first year. I find that offensive. And being in here with all this free CarPlay just reminds me of what a scam that is. Oh, BMW. Will you ever learn? Well, no, actually, no, you won't learn until people stop buying that. In practice, the infotainment system, it's pretty straightforward. Not much to say there. Works just fine. Last quick remark, 6-year, 72,000-mile warranty is included when you buy the car. And if you have any concerns about VW reliability for whatever reason, that might help quell some of those fears. As a guy whose wife owned a 2001 Volkswagen Beetle for a good long while, that I don't know if we ever drove it without at least one headlight out, I might have some of those concerns too. So take that into account when you're considering your Golf purchase. Synopsis! Price-wise, the Golf is pretty reasonable, and it's a really smartly designed package. It's fun to drive. There's a lot to like here. Then again, there is a little bit of a shadow hanging over Volkswagen for a variety of reasons. You can use Google to figure out what I'm hinting at. Diesel. Diesel. To me, the essence of the Golf is a little like the company that we've used the last few times when we've moved from one house to another. They hire people that recently got out of prison and they have to work really hard, but it's a way to get them back on their feet. I think it's a really cool thing that they do. In similar fashion, the Volkswagen Golf is hardworking. It wants to do a great job. You can see it hustling, and I love that. You also hope that the decision-making process that guides it in its journey forward is a sound one and yields good results. Come on, Volkswagen, I'm pulling for you. Lastly, if you don't follow me on Instagram, please do. That's how you intro a graphic. If you want to chat, that's a great place to do it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to enjoy some sweet steering while I park this baby. Probably for the last time. I don't know if I'll ever get to drive a Golf again. Aw.